ordinary man wakes up in his apartment to find a virus has spread across the world, turning people into zombies. He has no idea where his family is or if they're even alive. Trapped in his apartment, he's surrounded by danger, with zombies everywhere. His food supplies are dwindling, and the threat grows with each passing moment. Can he survive all of this, or is it already too late? That's what we'll uncover in today's video. Let's dive in as the movie begins with John. John lives with his family, including his father, mother, and younger sister. He wakes up to start his day, washes his face, and heads to the other room, expecting his mother to prepare breakfast. Instead, he finds the house empty. He notices a note from his mother explaining she left in a rush and asks him to wait for his sister before heading out to buy groceries, as the food is running low. After reading the note, John decides to wait for his sister to return. John returned to his room, opened his computer, and started working since, by the way, he's a streamer. Everything was fine until he heard something unsettling through his headset. His friend, sounding terrified, urged him to turn on the TV immediately. Alarmed, John ended his stream and quickly switched on the TV. The news anchor was reporting that atmospheric dust levels had risen dangerously, predicting an imminent surge in diseases and viruses. Suddenly, the broadcast cut off, and at the same time, John's phone lost its signal. Then the broadcast resumes, and John hears the announcer warning that citizens are panicking and attacking each other violently. Confused, he hears screams from the street, prompting him to look outside. From his balcony, he sees people running chaotically, fleeing in terror, with residents abandoning their homes. John, watching from his window, doesn't understand the cause of the commotion until he notices people acting with bizarre, aggressive behavior. He sees a girl calling for her mother, who approaches, only for the girl to suddenly attack and kill her violently. When John witnesses the chaos, his fear escalates, and he hears the sound of glass breaking near his apartment door. Rushing to check, he finds his neighbor at the door, desperate to hide inside. The neighbor explains his brother started acting violently and even attacked him. John, uneasy, warns the neighbor to leave, but reluctantly lets him use the bathroom first. While waiting, John turns on the news and learns the terrifying truths. Zombies have taken over the world due to a mutated virus. The virus, which spread through increased atmospheric dust, infects the brain, rendering victims completely deranged. It spreads through bites, and symptoms include screaming, bleeding eyes, and bodily decay. Realizing his neighbor might be infected, John grabs a knife. Before he can act, his neighbor begins convulsing violently and transforms into a zombie. Panicking, John shoves him out of the apartment and slams the door shut. To secure himself further, he blocks the door with a refrigerator. After the terrifying ordeal, John tries to contact his family, but the network is down. When it reconnects, he receives a message from his mother, assuring him that she, his father, and sister are safe, and urging him to survive until they return. The message gives John hope, motivating him to take stock of his resources. Unfortunately, his food supply is minimal. Resolving to conserve, he skips eating and tries to rest. The next morning, John wakes up and notices people posting photos and distress signals online. Inspired, he takes a photo of himself holding a sign and prepares to share his plea for survival, hoping someone will find it and come to his aid. Using his drone, he attaches his phone to it and sends it out to survey the area. Through the drone's camera, John sees the grim reality. The streets and even the houses around him are overrun with zombies. The sight is overwhelming. With nothing else to do, he retreats to his bed. While sleeping, John hears a loud commotion outside. He looks and sees a police officer running from zombies, shooting at them with her pistol. Unfortunately, they swarm her, pin her down, and kill her. Her handgun falls to the ground, an important detail for later. John, horrified, screams to distract the zombies, but it has no effect, and they continue their attack. The lesson here is that John's screams attract a massive zombie, breaking down his door. Panicking, John runs to the balcony, climbs over the railing, and waits. The zombie smashes through, topples the fridge, and charges, but loses control and falls to its death. Hanging onto the railing, John carefully climbs back into his apartment and rushes to fix the broken door before another zombie finds its way in. In general, John decides to fix the door again, but unfortunately the zombie had knocked over the fridge, spilling and ruining all the food. Frustrated and desperate, John tries to calm himself by starting a live stream, sending a message to his father about his inability to survive. Sadly, none of these messages reach anyone, as the entire city's network is down. He does this merely to distract himself from losing his mind. 10 days pass, and John remains trapped in the apartment. This time, his food supply is completely gone, yet he resolves not to leave, even if starvation awaits, preferring hunger over becoming a cannibalistic zombie. After 15 days of isolation, John reaches his breaking point. He begins drinking and dancing wildly, spiraling into hallucinations where he imagines his family returning home. Overcome with joy, he hugs his mother, but when the hallucination fades, he collapses in tears, crying himself to sleep on the floor. Later, he wakes to a faint phone call from his mother. Struggling with poor reception, John hangs out over the balcony to improve the signal. He finally hears his mother say they're at his father's workplace, but the call is interrupted by the sounds of zombies attacking. Realizing his family is gone, John is devastated and begins wrecking his apartment in a rage. In a reckless outburst, he leaves the apartment with a stick, kills one zombie, and yells, attracting a horde. He narrowly escapes back to his apartment, shaken but alive. 20 days into the disaster, John is still confined to his apartment, completely out of food. The government begins launching missiles to destroy areas overrun with zombies, and John watches in despair. Overwhelmed by hopelessness and the belief that rescue is impossible, he decides to take his own life. He ties a rope to the ceiling fan and starts to hang himself. Just as he begins to lose consciousness, a laser pointer shines on his head. Realizing someone else is alive, he fights to free himself, filled with a renewed sense of hope, and looks across to see a woman in the building opposite. She introduces herself as Kim and pleads with him not to give up hope, promising to talk more tomorrow. The next day, John wakes up and checks the balcony. Kim is there, and they introduce themselves properly. For the first time in weeks, John feels a glimmer of hope knowing someone is nearby. As they begin forming a connection, Kim notices John clutching his stomach and realizes he's starving. Their bond becomes a reason for him to keep going. Kim comes up with a clever idea and throws a ball tied with a rope to John so she can send him food. However, the ball falls short, landing on the ground. Undeterred, John uses his drone to attach the rope, successfully creating a connection between their apartments. Kim then sends food over and John devours it hungrily. But trouble arises. While eating, John notices a zombie has grabbed the ball and is climbing the rope toward Kim's apartment. The tension escalates as the rope pulls on a table securing it, knocking Kim unconscious. Acting quickly, John uses his drone to distract the climbing zombie, leading it away temporarily. Unfortunately, the drone is destroyed, but the distraction gives Kim enough time to regain consciousness. She grabs an axe and cuts off the zombie's arm just before it breaches her apartment, saving herself in the nick of time. Realizing how much Kim risked to help him and knowing his own supplies are almost gone, John decides it's time to act. He prepares himself for a nighttime excursion to scavenge for food. While searching the nearby apartments, he stumbles upon a neighbor's body with a key in hand. John uses the key to enter the apartment, where he finds a treasure trove of food, including chocolate and even a radio transmitter. Overjoyed, he gathers the supplies. But his excitement is short-lived. a zombie suddenly attacks him inside the apartment. In a chaotic struggle, John narrowly escapes, sprinting back to his apartment with the supplies he managed to salvage. When John returned to his apartment, he ate first and then sent some food, chocolate, and one of the 2 radios he found to Kim so they could stay in touch. Leaving the package for her to find when she woke up, he went to bed. The next morning, John was woken by Kim's voice on the radio, thanking him for the chocolate. They began chatting, enjoying each other's company despite their separation. They even had a meal together, though each ate in their respective apartments while talking over the radio. During the chat, John heard a strange noise outside and thought it might be rain. Excited, he went out to collect water, only to find there was no rain. He and Kim focused on the sound and discovered it was the zombies running in unison. They couldn't tell why. To their horror, one of the zombies heard a noise from Kim's apartment and gathered others to break in. Kim, terrified, radioed John. Acting fast, John asked for the number of the apartment next to hers. He called that apartment and the ringing phone distracted the zombies, pulling them away from Kim's door to investigate the noise in the neighboring unit. After surviving the ordeal, John and Kim decided it was time to leave and escape together. Kim prepared first, tying a rope to the door and throwing it from the balcony to climb down. Without hesitation, she descended quickly, no surprise given her experience as a mountain climber before the apocalypse, skillfully avoiding zombies, weaving left and right and fighting off any that got too close. However, the sheer number of them eventually overwhelmed her, causing her to stumble and fall. As she hit the ground, she noticed the gun dropped by the officer earlier and made a quick dash to grab it. With the weapon in hand, she continued running, but a zombie suddenly lunged at her, ready to strike. Just in time, John appeared, having climbed down to join her. They eventually made it to another building, where they quickly entered and headed for the elevator. Their goal? The 8th floor. According to Kim, it was empty, safe, and likely stocked with supplies. Once they reached the 8th floor, it seemed deserted at first. However, a large group of zombies suddenly swarmed John, threatening to overpower him. Just as all seemed lost, a mysterious figure appeared and threw a smoke grenade, scattering the zombies and rescuing John and Kim. The stranger brought them into his apartment for safety and settled them in the living room. The stranger introduced himself and explained that he had thought he was the only person left alive in the neighborhood. The stranger offers them water to drink while they talk, noticing their hesitation. To reassure them, he drinks some himself, prompting them to follow suit. Afterward, he cooks a meal for them. However, unbeknownst to John and Kim, he laces the food with a sedative. As they eat, John suddenly passes out. Kim tries to escape but collapses shortly after. When Kim regains consciousness, she finds herself tied up in another room. Across from her is the stranger's wife, infected with the virus and behaving like a zombie. The stranger, speaking through the door, reveals his twisted plan. He intends to feed Kim to his wife to keep her alive until rescue arrives. The infected woman lunges at Kim, but before she can attack, John wakes up and rushes to help. He tries to pull the rope restraining the zombie, but it slips from his grasp. Kim's screams fill the air, then abruptly stop. The stranger opens the door, only for his wife to turn on him and bite him. Kim seizes the moment, using a gun to shoot and kill both the stranger and his wife. Shaken by the events, despair overtakes Kim and John. Kim, consumed by hopelessness, pleads with John to end her suffering. John raises the gun, but his tears prevent him from pulling the trigger. Suddenly, they hear the sound of rescue helicopters overhead. A glimmer of hope sparks as they race toward the rooftop. The journey to the roof is perilous, with zombies swarming the building. Using makeshift weapons, including a shopping cart on wheels, they fight their way up. During the chaos, Kim trips, but John intervenes, pushing back the zombies with the cart. He tells Kim to go ahead and signal the helicopter while he holds off the horde. Kim reaches the rooftop, but the helicopter departs before she can flag it down. Moments later, John joins her, only to realize they are out of time. Zombies break through the rooftop door, charging toward them. John fires his gun desperately, trying to buy time, but the sheer number of zombies threatens to overwhelm them. Just as all seems lost, the sound of John's gunfire attracts the rescue team. Soldiers arrive, shooting down the zombies and clearing a path. John and Kim are helped aboard the helicopter and flown to safety. As they ascend, relief washes over them. Listening to the radio on board, John learns the virus has spread globally and governments are struggling to contain it. Rescue operations like theirs are ongoing, but the situation remains dire. Despite the grim reality, John and Kim are grateful to have survived. The film closes with the world still in ruins, but at least for now, John and Kim have hope.